All right, everybody, it's another episode of the Reserve Man Podcast. I'm Jake Brown. I got with me GP.
Man, what's happening?
Shagari.
What up?
What's up, Stan?
Yo, what's good, bro?
Man, if we got a great episode for you today,
As usual.
we can't wait to share it with you.
Man, let's get started.
You know your credit score bad. I'm not surprised you on the top of that's solid quality stuff. Right. Why is Steve Harvey still writing books when it's Wall Street? Wait a minute. So if I want you, I ain't say you the Waffle House at 4 a.m. Cause you bullshit. Hey, look, I care about you. We going to Waffle House.
All right, everybody, we have a great episode for you today. So we want to welcome Mr. Anthony Kimball. What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Good, man. How about yourself?
Oh, man, feeling good. Feeling good. So how about you just tell us a little bit about your company and what it is that you do?
Okay, man. I guess I'll just start out a little bit, just tell my story, how I got into, what I'm doing today. Originally grew up in a little small town called Marganza, moved to Baton Rouge, as a kid. Went to high school in Baton Rouge. Left for some years, went off to college. Played football at Stanford. Had a good college career. Went from there to working in the corporate world with a company called Accenture. Had a couple different gigs in the corporate world. And, while I was, in the corporate world and doing some other things, I was thinking about, retirement, investments. I was blessed to make some good money. So about 7-8 years ago, while working for Accenture, I bought my first house. That was, we're looking at stocks, mutual funds, and stuff like that, just from a control aspect, and just from an understanding. I understood, on the basic level, stocks and mutual funds, but, for me, I just wanted to have more control in, the things I invested in and, the things, that my money. So for me, my parents were small, real estate developers. They had some inner city houses that, they would buy and rent. This was, a couple years after Katrina, so their rentals were doing really well. So with that being said, I started out, bought my first house in a neighborhood called Bird Station, inner city Baton Rouge, paid $11,000 for it. Rehabbed it, me and my mom over the next 6 months, rented it out, made some good money. Made a good bit of the money back, made $6,000-7,000 that first year, and then I sold it for about a $25,000 profit that next year, and that was what really kind of saw me the potential with real estate. So that was, I want to say 2012, and just since then, I've just figured out, look for different ways to grow. So started off like a lot of guys doing, a lot of flips, inner city rentals, and then I tell people a big thing about real estate is what your resources are, and whether it's money, whether it's your social circle, whether it's being able to find deals. And my resource was, I had a social circle with friends that were pro ball players. I went to a place like Stanford, so went from there and realized I had the opportunity to, like I said, great thing in real estate, using other people's money, to be able to access other people's money and really, scale my company up now to where we're doing bigger mixed-use deals. We'll this year probably do $15 to $20 million in development throughout our projects. We're currently in the midst of raising a $5 million equity fund. My company's Kimball Properties developer. I also own a couple construction companies on the residential side, Blue House Construction, and on the commercial side, Core Consulting and Construction. I always tell people we work in the urban core. We like the inner city. We're not suburban tract builders. We like, working in neighborhoods that are transitioning. Because one thing that's important to us at Kimball Properties, we like to build neighborhoods that accommodate all people. So we typically like to work in those neighborhoods where, they've been de-invested for some years, like the South Baton Rouge area and the Scotlandville area in Baton Rouge. So we like to go in, find old buildings, and put some money in them, rehab them, and produce a quality product, for either a commercial or a residential tenant.
Cool. I got a couple questions to follow up on all you just said. One, when did you make the jump from corporate America? What was it? I guess a trigger to make you make the jump from corporate America to just doing real estate full time? And then the second question is, I know you talked about you like the control aspect of real estate. So versus like stocks or 401k, are you like turned off by those, or are you just mostly, it's like you mostly focused on real estate rather than stocks or other investment vehicles?
First question. Go back to what was that first one?
First question was just like what was the trigger to make you make that jump?
For me, I mean, real estate and investing for me is about freedom. You know what I mean? And not only, and I tell, about myself and like, purpose and potential. And I feel like I'm a person, that God and, has blessed me with a lot. You know what I mean? I have a lot of things that, that have been really good in my life. And so with that being said, I had a social circle, that had these resources. And I knew like the freedom that I wanted and the life I wanted to live. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, for me, it was like, okay, I knew working in corporate America, my salary could increase, but it was going to take years to increase to the point that I was going to be making the money that allowed me to live the life that I wanted to do. And so I saw that opportunity with real estate to be able to scale a business and have to then let this business and these resources I create allow me to live the life that I wanted to live. So that was, about me, it was just freedom. And, also with that, wealth generation is really big for me, mm-hmm. Especially as Black, people, ownership is big, and and if you historically look at how wealth was created in this this country in a capitalist society, it's usually through business or real estate. Right. So owning real estate and developing business and investing in businesses, it's proven that it mm-hmm. works. You know what I mean, as far as creating generational wealth. So for me, I realized early that like, hey, just working for this company, retirement plan, this package that, if we look at, where this country's going, it's like, it's not enough. So it's like, right. Okay, how can I figure out a way to create, the resources that, allows me to live this life that I want to live. And, when you start talking 401k, stocks, you know what I mean? For me, I have money in public markets. I still, believe in diversification. So I have real estate. I have private, tech investments. I'm really trying to dive deep into the cannabis space. So with that being said, I'm, that, stocks and bonds doesn't, something that, I'm not heavily invested in, but mm-hmm. at the end of the day, like I tell people, like, your freedom, that freedom and happiness is different for everybody. So like figuring out those vehicles to create that freedom and that happiness, it doesn't mean that you need to be an entrepreneur. It doesn't mean that you need to, like, it's whatever that happiness is for you. And like now figuring out a way to where, to be able to use the resources you have to create that, that freedom and that happiness that you're looking for.
Gotcha. Yeah, the only reason I ask, man, because I know in today's society, especially in corporate America, they push that 401k so much. And I guess the older I get and the more educated I get, I see the value. I see the value more in real estate mm-hmm. than just trying to focus on. I'm just gonna put my money in the stock market, and I'm just gonna wait till I'm 65 or whenever retirement age is to just access that money.
Yeah, and I think another part of that, with some of these investment vehicles, whether it's 401ks, whether it's IRAs, is also figuring out ways, loopholes, and 401k. You know what I mean? You can take that 401k and just invest it in stocks and, to whatever the plan. Or you can take a loan against that 401k and then have some options to be able to do, you know what I mean? You can take a Roth IRA and just put your money in there and, be able to invest in stocks and mutual funds. Or you can do a self-directed IRA and, have some optionality. Right. So I think, I tell people a lot, man, with the accessibility that we have with these phones and these computers, as much as we kind of, as a people tend to, get distracted by some of these things, we need to just be as passionate about things that create a financial freedom for us. You know what I mean?
Right.
I always tell people that I'm the athlete. You don't watch. I don't watch sports as much anymore because I look at sports for me was a means to get an education and be part of a network. You know what I mean? My dream was never to be like a pro, all pro running back. If it would have worked out like that, great. Right. But like I knew what my plan was. It was to get to Stanford, get this education, get with these guys. Mm-hmm. Like, and I knew even before, like, I even knew what it all the way meant. I was telling I want to be in private equity. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because I'm seeing the returns, these private equity, hedge fund guys. I was like, I want to make money like that. And I'm working in these companies in college, and I'm like, I want to make money like that. You know what I mean? So, you know, I think too, I always tell people, you know, that's a big part of it. Man, we have to plan and take our lives, especially on the financial side, just as serious as we take like some of these other things, you know, that we're passionate about. You know, I have, you know, I've seen people, you know, literally, you know, arguing about, you know, their favorite sports team and who's gonna win and doing this, but it's like, you know, you ask them some questions about investments and it's like, oh, I don't know this, and it's like, well, you know, we in here Googling stats of some stuff that ain't gonna make you $1. You know what I mean? That's, you know what I mean? So it's like, no,
I'm guilty.
You know what I mean?
I felt that one.
You know what I mean? I think we all have our things. You know what I mean? But it's like, you know, it's like, hey, we're at a point in, you know, this world where these things are accessible. So it's like, why not?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and I tell people, it's like, we gotta stop willingly taking part in these distractions, you know, like they're benefiting us, and just, you know, because really it'd be, I always tell people, like, the same thing that can be an asset for you can be a liability for me.
Right.
You know what I mean? I tell people, you know, even things like college. You know, I went to a place like Stanford where I realized a lot of these kids are there because their parents are really, really well off and they can afford it. So they're there to grow up, network, find a wife, bring powerful families together, find, you know, some business partner, and their families are sending them to these schools with a plan. You know what I mean? On the flip side of that, you know, we got people in our communities that are going to school with no plan, spending all their money turning up for homecoming, you know, not building and not, you know, utilizing and building a network. And I'm coming out of this thing with $40,000 in student debt, making $45,000 a year, and I'm paying a 9% interest rate. Like, that was an asset for this person. This is a liability for this person. You know what I mean? It's like, we gotta, like, you know, think through these things and like realize, like, hey, is this a benefit for me or is this gonna hurt me? And like, okay, and have a plan, you know, with it all. Like, from everything I do, like, you know, I try to like have a plan. You know, some people always tell me like I'm too transactional, but like, why leave anything up to like, you know,
chance?
You know what I mean? Like,
so for you, do you think? Because it sounds like you went into school knowing that you want to network and you want to get the most, that you wasn't going to let Stanford use you for ball. You was going to use ball to get that Stanford network. So do you think that the way you were raised had something to do with that, your parents instilling you to, hey, go network and do this, or did you kind of, is that something you kind of figured out?
No, I definitely say it was my parents, you know what I mean? And I mean, I was one of those kids that I was able to see both sides of the track. So, you know, we had family friends that sold, and family members that sold drugs. We had family members and friends that were in the car. So I got to see, you know, my parents growing up owned the record store. We were on the rap label. We had a bunch of things we tried, and not a lot of them were overly successful, but I saw business, I saw networking. So I would definitely say it was definitely not on just parents, the tribe that raised me, you know what I mean? Because, like, you know, I had people, my parents wasn't the over, like, super protective, so, you know, they was like, and they were just young too, so part of it was just like, they just probably ain't know no better, so everybody had some influence, you know what I mean? So, but it definitely, I will say that my parents wanted better for me and pushed me to say, hey, what we got is not good enough. So, and I think I took that push to say, okay, I got to figure this out. You know?
So that's my point. So your next generation is even gonna have a better leg up because it's got your parents as strong grandparents, and you gonna be a stronger parent teaching these things. And so for me, that's what I'm trying to instill what your parents instilled in you into my kids, because everybody didn't necessarily have that, and you had a great thing. Not saying you had a leg up on everybody, but that's great that you soaked that up and you just took it to the next level.
And I mean, I even say that to touch on a little bit what we talked about before we started today, and I think that's why the importance of, you know, guys like us and people in this room investing back into our communities, not just even pure from a financial sense, but your time, your energy, you know, because, you know, for me, you know, people always tell me, like, I don't have kids, you know, but I run a sports program. Like I spend a lot of times with I'm an only child too, but I spend a lot of times with my little cousins because I was, you know, even though like over the last 2 years, like people in my family was like, you know, like, why are you, my dad's like, why are you doing all this stuff? Because I'm like, at the end of the day, I want my little cousins not to have to go to college. I want them to have the option of like, hey, you know, we got a an investor or a resource in our family that's willing to say, hey, if I have this idea, I'm willing to invest in it. And so it's like, for me, it's like changing the narrative within our families. You know what I mean? And it's like, I come from a family like, like we got some stuff, on both sides. We love each other, but it's like, we have to start working together. And like I told my dad recently, I'm to the point, even with family members, like, I'm not about to just sit and criticize people. Like, we have to figure out how to be intentional by empowering each other. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I see, my kid, running around with this camera all the time, and this kid just seems to love to take pictures, and he loves documenting things. Okay, like, how can we empower this kid? Because he evidently has a passion about this.
Right.
And I tell my little cousin all the time, I love playing these video games, so that means something that's very enjoyable for you. So let's figure out how to make money off this. It shouldn't be about just let's play the video game and be a consumer.
How you develop it.
Yeah, how do we make money off this?
Right.
And I think, too, that's the importance of, rebuilding our communities, because these are conversations that it can't just be about our kids. Like, if we're a community and like we all care about each other, like, I need to be willing to do this for your kid, and because at the end of the day, what you can teach and tell my kid about, your business and the photo world, I don't know that knowledge. I have no knowledge of that.
Right.
So my kid might be passionate, about taking photos and stuff like that. So I need you as a resource to say, hey, man,
Right.
talk Shagari. He right down there.
And that's where the networking comes in.
Yeah, and that's where the networking. And that's where, the communities and the proximity and, people, living, and we understand, like, well, other races do this because they rebuild, they invest and they rebuild, they have their own communities. So they're able to influence the education. They're able to say, hey, you're interested in, doing nails, so you go work at the nail shop.
Go talk to such and such.
So it's like, if we don't, if we don't have that community, how can we do it? I don't know anybody to take photographers. Now we got a kid with a gift that's, unless I could connect him with somebody, it may be lost.
Right.
Well,
You
I,
made
do,
a-
I do see some. My bad. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I do see sometimes in the black community where people do reach out to do those things, but black people are so scared of other people taking money from them when it comes to doing the same thing. A lot of people are afraid of networking, and it's enough money out here for everybody.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this, and we're gonna take a quick break. I remember I was at a law conference in Cancun, and like one of the people I always thought was dope was Bob Johnson, and I actually got to we were staying at his hotel, and he spoke, and I was listening to him speak, and he was talking about how we got to do better as a people from a business standpoint. He was talking about how he was playing golf on the golf course with this wealthy white attorney, and he made the joke that if black people owned all the businesses, there'd be no need for antitrust litigation because we'd never worked together to begin with. And he was like, at first he was offended, but then when he took some time to think about it, he was like, man, I can't even really say anything.
That's crazy. But I mean,
We gonna take a quick break, y'all. You fellas just made a lot of good points, so we're gonna touch on it some more right after this. All right, y'all, we are back. So yeah, man, right before we took a break, it was one thing you said that I thought was really important, which is education or college. It's just one tool in the box. And then if you go to college and you don't have any plan, then it really can end up being a chain around your neck.
right.
As far as debt, student loan debt.
It was a chain around mine, but let me tell you, before I figured out what I wanted to do, I ended up not using, because I was in architecture before I left for the Army, came back from the Army. I ended up leaving again, got 15 hours with a 3.6, but I will tell you it was the best networking tool I've ever had, because all of the people I have met throughout turned out to be my clients on the marriage and everything I wanted to do college was my clients. When I was tattooing, that was my clients. Now that all of my friends are older, that's my wedding business. That's all my photo clients. That's all my families, and pretty much any walk I wanted to. That it was a networking tool. But like Anthony was saying, you don't have to go into debt to network.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing we're looking at college is we have to teach our kids how to be more intentional. So, I talk to high schoolers a lot, so I always go around and be like, what do you want to be? Everybody, I'm an accountant, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a doctor, and then at the end I always tell kids, it's like, okay, like, so instead of, so we all want this individual success. But now, let's talk about how we're going to work together as a unit to, now elevate everyone. So, okay, if that's our accountant, everybody should be using it. If that's our lawyer, everybody should use it. If these are the people that want to, go work and make, those are going to be our investors. You say you want to be a developer, you want to be a tech guy, a app developer. Okay, these is your investor base right here. And we got to start telling our kids how these things work, because at the end of the day, what we're using college for, and what other races are using college for are totally different things. And like I said, especially at those institutions where a lot of the big businesses are coming out of, you know what I mean? So a place like, like I said, I went to Stanford. I truly saw with my own eyes how people go to college, network, find a significant other, realize that this significant other has, resources too. We're going to bring these resources together, and, then we're going to find some business partners, and then, these are going to be the guys, so, we have to be just as intentional with that, because if not, the return on investment doesn't make sense
at all
for our kids. And then it's like, too, it's like even with, the whole networking thing, is like, okay, if I can go to, this place and network, and I might have 20,000 in debt, but I'm gonna come out and due to this network, I'm gonna make 60,000. Okay, does that make sense, or does it make sense for me to maybe take the certification class, become an electrician at 18? I'm making 60,000 a year. By the time I'm 21, I'm making 100,000 a year. Now I got 100,000 saved up, and now I go invest in that thing I'm passionate about.
Without the loans.
Without the loans. You know what I mean?
That's
So
the
it's like,
biggest key.
I think we got to start looking at these options and take some of these stigmas away from things, and because I don't look at it as cool as hell to go to, somewhere and get a poli-sci or general studies degree, and you coming out and being an administrator, but you around this thing bragging about, man, I went to LSU, I went to Tulane.
Right.
But we looking down on the guy who's an electrician,
Right.
but he has no debt and he's making 100,000 a year.
Right.
And nah, that shit ain't cool.
Right.
To be paying somebody, and we're getting in situations. I know so many people that's never paid their debt back. It's doing this is hampering every other thing that they want to do. Buying a house, starting a business, getting a loan, and it's
But that's why people are starting their lives later now, because college is more expensive. You're having to get more loans, but also everything else is raising in price as well.
Right.
Well, another thing is, and it goes back to where I was saying, just with access to information, we as a community, have to be not cool with being sheep. And I tell people this in the sense of, we talk about distractions and these things that we sometimes know is not good for us, and we kind of be like, well, that's just how it is. And it's like, well, no. If historically you look at this is not how it's been, and this was put in place because of the economic benefit that it is to someone. Maybe not you, but hey, no, there's the 1 to 5% of the world want us to keep paying these student loans.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because that benefits them. I tell people, it's as a people, we go through this cycle as adults where we willingly take part in distractions, and then we say, man, I don't understand why I'm not where I'm at.
Right.
But it's okay, you went and got student loans without a plan. You met this woman and fell in love, and the sex was great, and you never really thought through it. You know what I mean? And so you just your life savings that you had. You know what I mean? You saved up, bought this big ring, and y'all spent all your money showing off to have this wedding. Now you're back to you're back as you're okay. You didn't, you know what I mean? I go buy this house without thinking about it, in this, because I just want to be in a suburban area. Now I'm spending more money getting to work. Now, my nest egg is gone. I don't have nothing to invest. Now I'm in my 30s, and this marriage that I just, I was so caught up in what I need as far as this subjective thing called love has changed, and now I got to get divorced. So now I've spent 15 years taking part making business decisions based with no plan, based on emotion. And I'm still at the same place I was at when I was 21 years old,
Yeah,
or worse.
Yeah,
Because now you got child support.
and it's
Yeah.
funny because
Indeed.
I was listening to a podcast today, and the guy was saying, you know, black folks, we more worried about looking like we got money instead of actually having the money and having the assets.
Yeah.
And you know what you were just saying, man, it makes it so clear because. I mean, I think we've all probably been victims
Oh, yeah,
of
we all
done it
been victims.
ourselves.
I mean,
I say.
I say this to say, and I got right now $60,000 in student debts from my grad program. You know what I mean? I'm just glad I'm in a blessed position that I'm able to pay it monthly. But it's like, you know, I say that to say is I went and got my master's so I can be validated to do what I'm already doing.
Right.
But I just thought in some people's eyes, I needed that master's from Tulane because that validated me.
Right.
And literally while I'm in college at Tulane, I'm bidding on a project RFP against one of my professors, and I beat him. My team wins.
Right.
You know, actually Electric Depot. One of my professors, I was part of the team for Electric Depot when we were in college. You know, we beat my professor's team. You know, but I'm sitting in this class because I feel like I need the validation from Tulane.
Yeah.
It's
Part
crazy.
of it also, I knew that for me, I knew I wanted the Tulane network in a place like New Orleans. But part of it, now that I look within myself, it was validation. You know
Right.
what I mean? And I'm willing to say that. You know what I mean? Because that's what it was.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's real, you know, especially in corporate America. You know, they require a college degree or a certain type of degree for a certain job, but they don't say what you need the degree in. So, you know, you might go work in like a tech space, for example, but you got a history degree, but you fulfill your degree requirement. It has nothing to do with
Right.
what you're trying to do, but
Right.
it's a validation type of thing.
I always tell people, like, if you do view the college thing as your route and you want to be a doctor, lawyer, I totally understand you have to do that.
Absolutely.
You know, but if you're going to go to, and you don't know what you want to do and you just want to just have a degree, man, at least get yourself in engineering and have an analytical way of thinking. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like at least that engineering teaches you a certain way of thinking that will be
Yeah.
valuable to you. But
Colleges have too many majors.
yeah, outside of that, you know,
Yeah.
we got it's networking. It's meeting people.
You have too many majors where, because I know LSU, for instance,
Way too many.
mass comm, very common major. But all the people that major in mass comm, very few of them are going to actually get the kind of job that they want.
In that, yeah.
You know, like being on ESPN.
Oh, they're gonna find
being
something
on
for
CNN,
everybody that's there, so you
you
can
know.
spend your money.
Oh yeah, it's big business.
Yeah, it's big business.
It's
you
big
don't,
business.
You don't make no
Greatest
money
hustle
writing for the
ever.
local newspaper anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
And people, you know, I get the thing, you know, people tell me, like I said, people tell me I'm transactional, you know, you marriage and stuff like this, or, you know, and I'm not married and stuff like that, but the way I think about being married is a very transactional, you know, thing. And, you know, people are like, well, how you gonna make love transactional? I was like, well, when I had to buy that ring, when I had to, you know, throw this big ceremony, when I had to take this honeymoon, when I figured out it didn't work and we had to get divorced, that's all business. That's all
you
business.
literally have to execute a legal document and file it in the courthouse
Yeah, you
to
know,
be married.
but you're gonna
Yeah.
say, you know, and like I always ask people, you know, that's close to me. I'll be like, so was the love you needed at 21 the same love you needed at 30? So like, you know, oh no, well, why are we, you know, but why, you know, I tell people, our people, we get married off like love and emotional things and like no plans so much when it's like, hey, this is like something that you're that's going to be part of building your legacy and like who you is and this person, like we put so much thought into like our, you know, business partners and all this, and you know, I mean, and it's like, hey, these same think through this like person that's going to be your significant other, because
Right.
like you reaching your potential is going to have a lot to do with that person. So like, yeah, you definitely should have a strategy.
All right, man. I think we can take a quick break on that one.
All right.
We'll be back with more right after this. All right, we're back, everybody. So, how'd you go about putting together your portfolio? How do you determine what's a good investment opportunity to you?
Well, crazy. Where we're working at now started. It's crazy like how things transpired, and you get in these certain rooms. So for me, like I said, one of the biggest things that was my social circle. This even like people always ask me like, y'all want to get in real estate? I always tell people like, what's your resource? You got to figure out what your resource. So I had a social circle, these pro athletes. Being from a place like Baton Rouge, everybody wanted to, try to get to these guys, whether it's, Big Baby, whether it's Tires, whether it's Garrett. So, I was invited into a lot of rooms, whether it was boards or whether it was, meetings, because, I was seen as a gatekeeper. So with that being said, I was put on this planning committee for a mid-city in Old South Baton Rouge where, they was working with, some architects and some planning people. And I was one of the visionaries. Really, I just knew some dudes that were rich and they wanted to, like pump me up and pump up my ego so they can get what they wanted. So with that being said, I'm in these meetings talking about Mid City, this electric depot site, old energy site, and then they started coming up with the plan for this neighborhood, and this has been a black neighborhood that's been de-invested for the last 30 years, and like. They start talking about, well, we don't want no affordable housing. We want market rate. So basically the plan, I'm looking at this plan like, this plan doesn't fit the neighborhood. The people in this neighborhood, this doesn't work for them. They're not excited about the plan. So basically.
Sound like gentrification.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It sounds like a plan where, that even was different than what you just touched on, gentrification. This wasn't even gentrification, this is colonization, which are two different things. Gentrification at this root means the uplifting of the neighbor. Colonization, what we've seen, for years in this country, where you literally come in and the people that were there, you take over their stuff, and the ones that it doesn't work for, you kick them out and you send them to Oklahoma. We saw with the Aboriginals in this country. So with that, being said, and I'm listening to these plans, and I was like, this. I went to McKinley Middle, so this neighborhood I care about. So it was one of the things like, no, I want to be involved in this. No, this plan is not going to work. No, like we don't have any neighbor. Baton Rouge is one of the most segregated cities in the country. Literally, if you look at it, like it's literally like so. This is our last chance to build a neighborhood in Baton Rouge that accommodates all people when you look at this mid-city area. So that was, outside of some of the financial gain I saw with, these properties, small residential properties I was doing. My really, big push was this is my way to impact people, you know what I mean? I tell people that I think the two biggest things that impact people are education and, housing, in my opinion. And I always wanted to be a teacher. Wasn't anything that made enough money for me, so I saw how I can impact people through development and rebuilding these buildings while we're rebuilding the people. So that's what really kind of got things started for me, and my really pushed me to go full throttle into real estate.
So I got a question to piggyback off that. Is that itch for teaching what motivated you to start the consulting piece of your business, and what type of consulting services do you provide?
Consulting for me, I love teaching. I love, I especially with, people that look like me, it's definitely very important to education. I will say when I started raising, the first 5 years of me doing real estate, it was really a lot of my own money, a lot of, my close friends' money. We wasn't really going outside raising money. As we scaled, I realized the importance of really using other people's money. So I would start having these conversations with people, that look like me outside of, my core group, my tribe. And what I realized quickly that we kind of have two weird kind of phenomena in the black community is people that it shouldn't even say the black community, but that's the community that's important to me. But I really started seeing that, we had people that had money, but literally would just stockpile it in savings accounts, and they liked looking at it. That was their thing. I'm just gonna save a lot, and I just want to be. And I'm like, well, honestly, those numbers you're looking at is not actually there, because if you understand how banks lend money, your money is just just something that's they're showing you. So the consulting, going back to the consulting, for me, I realized to really build this education base that was important to me outside of those Wall Street and Silicon Valley guys that understand investing, and they are going to invest because we're producing yields. For me, the consulting piece was for people in my community that look like me to be able to educate them on the mindset it took to invest and then lead them to becoming investors or lead them to doing their own projects. So that's what it really was, the consulting piece about me, because I run into so many people that have, 20, 30, 40, 50,000, or, an aunt that owns a house, or an uncle or a mom that owns a house, you know what I mean? And like their question to me is, how do I get started in real estate? And I'm like, you got to identify those resources. If you got cash, if you got, a family member, if whatever that resource is, being able to identify. So for me, the coaching part of it is being able to get people from just being interested to pulling the trigger and actually becoming investors, whether it's my investing with me or whether it's doing projects on their own. We just have to have more ownership within the Black community.
No doubt. Well, with that, you just mentioned the fund. How can people actually invest in the fund?
You can reach out to me. My email is ak@akimbleproperty.com. Also, you can go to our website, akimbleproperty.com, and just shoot us an email. Reach me on Instagram, B_Anthony Kimball. And like I said, we can get you the information on the fund. We're raising a $5 million fund to invest in our projects in both Baton Rouge and Shreveport in 2020. So we've been raising now for about 3 weeks, going really well. But through any of those channels, you can reach out to me, and I can get you further information.
And it's only, you say, Baton Rouge and Shreveport projects?
Well, I mean, we're with this bucket of money. We're one thing I am looking for is ground partners in other areas that we can partner with. So my thing is, I look at my role in all of this, especially being from Baton Rouge, sitting in rooms like this. My role is to take these resources from places like Wall Street, Silicon Valley, because of my connections that I've built, and be able to bring them to communities like Baton Rouge, and not only do the projects that we're going to do, but also find partners in these others these cities that we're working in, other small cities, to be able to partner with. So we're open to joint ventures. We're open to looking at projects. I'm just getting back from Houston looking at a project. So I mean, at the end of the day, we're just trying to be able to do good projects, impact communities, and then make a solid return for our investors.
As far as the funds in Baton Rouge and Shreveport, is there a minimum amount that an investor needs to bring to the table?
We've been working with people at minimums of like 5,000. My thing is, if you have some money that you want to just get into real estate and stuff, and just reach out to me. We'll figure out something the way. Because I have some larger investors, some Silicon Valley and Wall Street guys that are gonna feel the fun. But it's very important that I do get people that look like me in these funds. Whether so. I'm open, you know what I mean? So if you have funds and you're interested, and let's sit down and talk. It could be a thing that, I could help you grow those before you invest with us. There's options. My thing is, any way I can add value, I'm definitely down to do it.
Okay.
What was the question for the day, brother?
The question of the day, I guess fun fact about you is that you actually played running back in the NFL for a little bit. So being that you're an expert at this, I'd want to know who's your top 5 running backs of all time.
Top 5 running backs. I played ball at Stanford, moved around the NFL 1 year, kept getting cut, and realized that getting fired is a weird thing.
So what you're saying is you're not on the list?
No, I'm definitely not on the list. I always tell people I'm gonna put McCaffrey on the list, because I went to Stanford and I wore number 5, and I always tell people he's a way better number 5. He definitely did a lot for that number than I did. So we can start with McCaffrey. And this is not NFL. This is guys. I'm just gonna say the guys I saw, the guys I saw with my own eyes. I got to watch. I'm played against Reggie Bush at the USC in college. Dude was phenomenal. Like what Reggie was able to do in college. Out of this world, out of this world. So we got McCaffrey, we got Reggie. Man, I'm gonna put Adrian Peterson on that because I respect guys like the APs, the LeBrons of the world that literally were childhood prodigies and were able to live up to the hype.
Yeah.
Those guys were able to live up to the hype.
Very true.
So who else? I need one more. I know who my number 1 is. I'm trying to
But you're right about that, man. Because for every LeBron James, you got about 10 Kwame Browns.
I mean, not even a Kwame Brown. Kwame made it to the league. He just was a bust, but that boy made generational wealth. I mean, let's talk about the Lenny Cooks of the world. You know what I mean? Who were literally childhood legends. Number two, I'm gonna say this because a lot of people told me I reminded of him. I was nowhere as good as him, but just from body physique, Marcus Allen. So I actually did watch his style, because my dad always thought my body, style resembled him. So some of the great things he did at USC in the league. And number one for me is definitely Barry Sanders.
That's what I'm talking about.
They're staying all the time.
I'm a Barry dude. I mean, and then just how Barry did it. You know what I mean? Barry did his thing, and when he wasn't feeling it anymore. Barry, he shut it down. He walked away. You know what I mean? And when it wasn't a happy thing for him evidently anymore, he was willing to walk away. And I also respect people to say, hey, this is no longer bringing me happiness. This is no longer what I want to do, even though it's like this huge financial benefit that most people, chase. I respect those that are able to do things and say, hey, I did my thing, I was great at it, but now the time has came for me to be great at something else.
The Lions he's a Stafford guy, huh? Stanford guy.
Who?
Lions quarterback.
No, Stafford.
No. Stafford went to Georgia.
No. Oh, he went to where?
Georgia.
Andrew Luck was a Stanford. Luck was a Stanford.
No, Luck.
Yeah,
Luck retired.
Luck went to Stanford.
And he was like, because he's an engineer or
architect,
architectural engineer, and he was like, yo, I'm gonna go start my company. I'm good. Got my NFL money to invest. I'm good. I'm out.
NFL money. Dad, came from a pretty good background. His dad was Oliver Luck, so he came from a good background.
Wasn't no salary cap then, so.
Yeah, so I mean, Luck
got paid.
He got the real money.
But that's the thing. We got to put ourselves in positions where we can make those type of decisions too. Where you're not focused on I need this NFL money.
But no, everybody was just so shocked because he left the game early. He was like, man, look, I got a degree. I'm about to go before the CTE hit me.
Yeah, I wasn't shocked because I knew his background. So and
that's the biggest thing for a lot of these guys who play in pro ball. And I mean, that's one thing I do want to figure out ways to work more with some athletes, because these guys truly have generational wealth that in a lot of situations they're just messing it up, you know what I mean? So it's like and I think, for me and kind of going back to the educational piece, we got to start educating these kids early, and that's one reason I went back and started my basketball program in Louisiana. Started a basketball program, but now I co-direct Louisiana Elite with a partner on the Under Armour circuit, and it's really about showing these kids, first of all, there are other options, and also these kids that are talented enough to hey, start talking now, hey man, start Googling some of these things. What's what's a stock? What's a mutual fund? You know what I mean? Just at the basic level, what's compound interest? I remember I talked to an NBA dude that had been playing 7 years one time. We talking about investing. I say compound interest, and he say, what is that? You know what I mean? I'm doing you 7 years, 30, 7 years, 25 to $30 million in his career, and you don't so if you don't understand compound interest, you don't understand really investment at a very basic level.
You don't understand what's going on with his money, bro.
Yeah, you don't. You know what I mean? And now for me, a guy in my mid 30s, I've seen a full cycle with a lot of these guys. I've seen guys from doing it to literally being, broke, broke. And it's like,
remind me of that 30 for 30 that broke. It was sad, man. You saw people start building houses for their moms, and they couldn't even finish building the house, and
there's no clue. There's no clue. These guys have no clue. Me and my friend Garrett talk about this all the time. It's just these guys get in this and have so many people and so I'll give everyone control. And I always tell these guys you see guys go to the league, you know what I mean, and then you hear hey man, I'm gonna send you money for that, you know what I mean? They tell me they're gonna make a donation to my program. I gotta call my financial guy. He gonna send you a check, and I'm like, bro, just get your checkbook. Right. You know what I mean? Bro, just send a quick pay. It's not that hard. These guys literally be having financial systems set up. They have family. They have family offices, but people that have family offices financial setup, they're usually worth $300-500 million. You know what I mean? And they have 75 LLCs that this manager is just making sure these things have insurance. These things are connected. Hey, this is connected to this trust. We have guys that are worth $1.5 million, and you paying somebody $10,000 a month, literally to pay your utilities and pay your one house note, pay your car note. You know what I mean? And it's dog, you don't need a family. You don't need a family office manager. You know what I mean? Like every time like one of these guys who are like a man wealth advisor who calls me and they start telling me about their their setup, and one last time I was talking about, he was telling me how he literally charges these guys $25,000 a quarter to like come down and like do their financial planning and talk to them. I'm like, bro, this dude's a rookie. He just started making money. Why are you charging them $100,000 a year? You know what I mean? Like to come like talk about some. You know what I mean? When it's like, hey, you're gonna save this much. We're gonna build an emergency fund. We're gonna invest this much. You know what I mean? And you get to live off this 20%. It really ain't that hard.
Yeah.
It really is not that hard. You know what I mean? Okay, now when we start talking about COVID type money, okay, now we need all these different people around. You know what I mean? But these guys,
I don't know, rookie contract.
Not a rookie contract. You know what I mean? Not on unless you just have so. But even as a rookie contract, bro, you don't need a family office guy, paying your bills at a $5,000 clip per month. Why? You know what I mean? But it's like also educating these guys and seeing Anthony Kim or Shagari, George, or other guys say, hey, these guys are making money and they're able to do these things themselves, And when you show them as kids, that these things are possible, when they grow into having all these money, they'll be like, man, no, I know how to run a business. I know how to be the CEO. I know how to, I'm the CEO of my brand. I know how to pay my bills. You know what I mean? Like, the problem is when I have kids, they're going to be reading financial statements at 3-4 years old. If you can figure out how to play Fortnite, you can figure out how to read a financial statement.
Right.
Why not?
That's what other folks do.
You know what I mean? I had one of my friends I was talking about him all day. His responsibility was, man, I just want him to be a kid and enjoy it. Okay, don't teach him now and see how much he enjoys adulthood. You know what I mean?
It's funny you say that, man, because I'm in the 100 Black Men. We just started a financial literacy program. We had an orientation on Sunday or Saturday. And, the parents came with their kids and stuff like that. And there was so many parents that were saying, man, I wish somebody would have taught me this when I was a kid. Because if I would have got this information then, ain't no telling where I'd be now. So that whole, let's let kids be kids, that's nonsense.
No, like teach them systems. And I was like, the crazy part is with our kids, we brainwash them to accomplish all the other things. Well, I don't want to know mama be going out and stuff, so I'm going to just say I'm going by so-and-so. Man, use that same, manipulation or whatever to teach this kid that it's really cool to know how to read a financial statement.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, use this same manipulation to say, hey, if you want that candy from the store, you got to do this job at the house that you're going to get paid for, then you go get to buy it. You know what I mean? And like, they're our kids, they're going to listen to us anyway, so use it for their benefit. You know what I mean? Instead of, and I always talk to people, me and my dad been talking about this lately, like, we always say, like, well, that ain't just how I was raised. Like, this was ingrained with me. And I tell my dad, I was like, bro, stop telling me that, dog, because at the end of the day, you telling me about some people that we look at that are visibly not happy, but we want to talk to them about what was ingrained, what they ingrained in us. I was like, we look at some of our family members, and they're visibly not happy, but we want to say, I don't want to challenge myself to change because that's just how I was raised. I don't want to be like the people that was unhappy. Yep. You know what I mean? No, I'd rather challenge myself and say, hey, no, Daddy, let's start doing an investment club. You know what I mean? We need to have something different for our family. Like, instead of, like putting all this energy into planning this big Super Bowl party that we throw every year, let's put some bandwidth in getting, 50 of our family members to get $50 a month. You know what I mean? Now it's like within the family, we're creating wealth. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But like, it's gonna take that same bandwidth to build this fund that it would take, to throw these big parties that we throw every year. But let's get excited about building generational wealth and this next generation being able to invest and empower them. And the other part, like I tell, my girlfriend is like, also it's like, I do all these things because when my mama get old, I don't want my mama calling me and be like, hey, well, we need to come do this, or I don't have money for this. I want to be a mama. And the crib in New Orleans, that's you.
Right.
You know what I mean? And another part about that is, it's not a stressful event for me. Because if mama called and I can't do it, that becomes a stressful event. You know what I mean? Right. So I'd rather prepare and put these things in place because I want to be free. I don't want people calling me like, oh, well, if I give my uncles and them jobs and stuff like that, they can't call and ask for money and borrow money because you got a job, dog. You know what I mean? And like, as black people, bro, we just gotta start being just as intentional about empowering each other, because that's how, when you talked about earlier about community, that's how you build community. Community is when like everybody's winning, everybody's making money, everybody's happy and doing things together. That makes community.
Right.
You know what I mean? Those are my thoughts, man.
All right, y'all, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with our black prominent figure. You know, we're going to do this all year round, not just during Black History Month.
Although
And
it is Black History Month.
Although it is Black History Month.
Blackity black.
And we going to give it to you right after this. All right, everybody, we are back with our black prominent figure. Stan, who do you have for us, brother?
All right, being that we talked about real estate and generational wealth, I think it is appropriate that we discuss J.B. Stratford as our black prominent figure. J.B. Stratford was one of the richest men on Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921. He was the son of an escaped slave. He obtained his law degree from Oberlin College in Ohio and later migrated to Tulsa in 1899. He owned the largest and most successful black hotel in the nation at the time, called Stratford Hotel. And prior to opening the hotel, Stratford bought large tracts of land in Tulsa and sold them exclusively to blacks. He believed that blacks had the best chance for success if they pooled their resources, worked together, and supported one another's businesses. He believed if black people spent their money within their own community, they would become self-sufficient and achieve independence. So shout out to J.B. Stratford.
Amen. Brother Kimball, why don't you tell the people how they can find you?
Y'all can find me on Instagram at B_Anthony Kimball, Kimble, first name Anthony, so B_Anthony Kimball. You can email me at ak@akimbleproperty.com, so AKIMBLE property.com. That's AK@akimbleproperty. So either one of those, or you can go on the website akimbleproperty.com to shoot us an email through our website. So any of those ways are great, to reach out to me. And looking forward to hearing from people and helping more people get involved in the real estate market.
We appreciate you coming in and sitting down, dropping some knowledge on us, brother.
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely.
And with that, we are out.
You know your credit score bad. I'm not surprised you on the cover. That's solid quality